Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. Do you know today is the last day for you to sign up for the Finish Your Dissertation Institute? Like, you got today, you got like less than 12 hours to sign up because doors will close. They will not open again until January and the price will be higher. Don't block your blessing. If you are someone who is sitting on the fence, now you done heard the story, you have to hear another story, you done read the website 50, 11 times, get off the fence and join. And after today's conversation, you definitely gonna be hyped up to join. So the link is in the description box if you are on YouTube. If you're on Instagram, hit the profile and the link's right there, or you can type FD and we will send a link to your DMs. All right, y'all. I'm so excited for today's conversation. I met this person, they signed up for a dissertation breakthrough session in January of this year. That's when I used to do those. I probably will be bringing them back, winking. But that is a time where I get to talk to folks who are interested in working with me, and getting to learn more about them and what they need to make sure that fit. And so when I met this person, it's very much like, I'm tired. I don't want to do this. I just want to work out, cook my food, take naps, do this job, and go on about my life. And this dissertation is holding me back. And I was like, oh, light work, girl, light work. I was like, you need to go to Mardi Gras because that was the first thing. She was like, I'm giving this up. And a lot of people think in order to become a doctor, I got to put my life on hold. I'm here to say, like, what if you don't? And so I hope that today's conversation shows that you do not have to put your life on hold. Before I get too far off, please introduce yourself and anything that you think we should definitely know about you right now. Welcome.
Okay, well, my name is Dell Kirkpatrick Murray. I recently successfully defended my dissertation October 14th. Yeah, that's all that I can think of right now. I'm sure I'll share
Yes.
more.
So if you would go back, do you remember January? Was it like, it feels like, because I feel like 24 is like 20 years in itself.
Right, right. I
But
mean,
where were you?
January.
Yeah, go ahead.
January 2024, where was I? The holidays just happened, and over the holidays, for a period of time before January, for months, maybe for more than a year, I'd been following Qual Scholars. And it was a matter of I kept on following and kept on following. And I was like, Dale, you need to join. You need to join. You want the community. You're looking for the community. Just take the next steps. So when January rolled around, I finally took the next steps in order to join the Qual Scholars community. I reached a point where, like, even leading up to that point, I was the only individual in my cohort who had reached that far. Related to, at that point, I already successfully defended my proposal, and I was in the data collection process, and I just needed to write, and I was seeking community. Because I was a long ranger, and my dissertation chair has had a more lenient, a better word will come, but a more lenient relationship in which she trusts that I would do the work. But yet she was accessible, but I more so operated independently, but they were available. So I was looking for one community, and a form of a foundation to where I'm not doing this all by myself, and I can learn from the lived experiences and current experiences of others on the same journey as me.
Yeah. And it's something common that people share is like, and I remember feeling this way too, of I don't know why all these people have all these like high expectations of me, why they have this faith that I can like magically do this. What do they know that I don't know? And it can feel like almost like while they say they're there for help, you can almost feel like I can't go to you for help because you think I'm like, I don't know, more capable than I feel right now. And that's intimidating. Yeah. If you could go back to a version of you who was like, okay, I need the community, I need a little bit more guidance, I just need to sit down and write, I know I could do this. What would you say, if you look at it from that perspective, were the biggest things stopping you from writing? If you can get more like granular with that, like anything you were thinking or how you were feeling in that moment.
I mean, I would probably say the things that were keeping me from writing was like just having like some guidance of making this large process much smaller. Because in my mind, it was like, I know I have the skill set, but almost feeling overwhelmed of like, where do I start? And so with that, because like, again, my dissertation chair was like, oh, you got it. Yeah, go ahead and do it
Mhm.
now. And
Mhm.
I was like, okay, but like, how do I make this smaller? And I knew overall I just needed to get a routine. And I hope I'm answering the question in the direction that
Mhm.
I'm about to go. But upon joining Qual Scholars, I got what I was looking for related to, and I didn't know this is exactly what I was going to get, but what I needed in that moment was, because my mom was like, okay, you have to work around the clock, you have to make sacrifices. I need to miss Mardi Gras. I live in New Orleans, Louisiana. I can't do all these fun things. And that's what it takes in order for me to carve out time with the demanding work schedule, and primarily demanding work schedule, because if I got behind on work, then I wouldn't have time to write. And Scholars, one of the things that we learn is you just need 10 hours a week. And focusing on having 10 hours a week, crafting a specific plan of what I plan to do that week, down to even if it was follow up with participants for whatever follow up questions, or change the small thing on my dissertation, or look up this information to triangulate my data. But one, identifying those 10 hours a week, making a specific list of those things that I need to do in the week, followed by plugging in when I'm going to do those things. And for me, that 10 hours could be like on my lunch break, sending a couple of emails. And what I begin to realize is, and even carving in the writing time and just forcing myself, not forcing myself, but getting the rhythm of putting words on paper for whatever it was that I was working on. Once I began to exercise the rhythm of, this is when I'm writing, and I'm going to write for 30 minutes, take a 5, 10, 15-minute break. And a lot of times, sometimes those would be naps. And yes, I just need a 5 or 10 minute nap break and I'm good. But getting in the rhythm of that before Qual Scholars, and even throughout my coursework and my dissertation program, I was the type of individual, when I did my work, it was like, okay, I start at 7 o'clock after work, and then I work until, I do my homework until 1 a.m. And then on the weekend, I'm, spending all my whole Saturday and my whole Sunday doing work and doing writing. And sometimes it'd be by the time I took my first break. So I'm working without a break, simple things, restroom, eat,
Mhm.
but like no break. And then by the time I took the first break, it was like, okay, I'm done for the day. And upon changing my whole like routine of anything that I learned throughout my coursework of, write for 25 to 30 minutes, take a break and do that, I was able to get a lot done. And, along with anything else that I had laid out for that 10 hours that week in those tasks. And that was instrumental. And then additionally, so then I wasn't doing all this writing on Saturday or on Sunday. And eventually, after a period of time, that became a muscle that I was just able to exercise whenever I sat down and I was writing on that specific thing. So it really also helped me with work balance, life balance, and family balance.
Mhm. Okay, but like for real, okay, because I can hear somebody right now being like, did she tell you to say this? Like, is it really 10 hours a week? Like, really? Is it really 10 hours or is it 10 hours a day? Like, how?
And in all honestly, sometimes it wasn't even 10 hours a week. Sometimes it was 8 hours or it was 6 hours. And it was less because I knew I had the system of 10 hours a week. If whatever I had going on in my life or my personal life, if it was like, I don't think I can show up for this today and I need to take time, then I took time. And I did that. But yes, literally 10 hours a week. Because once you write out the task, whether it's writing, whatever those specific things are, whether it's attending a session or watching a video, a tutorial that's available on Qual Scholars, it makes a difference because you're planning out your time the way we plan out our work or anything else that we're connected to. So it allows us to be more efficient because we know what we intend to accomplish. We know what we're working towards. We know how much time that's going to take. And in those small nuggets of time with the simple task or whatever it may be, you are gradually working on those things. And for me, many times it wasn't uncommon for me to get a lot more done in that 10-hour segment. Maybe I carved out an hour to do something and it only ended up taking 20 minutes. So then I put something else in there. So yes, just 10 hours a week and sometimes less than 10 hours a week, but really carving out, like, knowing it's 10 hours a week, what are those tasks and how much time am I giving it? That was really instrumental. And in all transparency, I actually plan out my entire work week the same way I did for qual scholars, and I still do that for work now.
Hmm. Yeah, I tell people, and they probably think I'm talking real reckless on the internet when I say like, you think you know how to plan, but when you come in here, oh, you're gonna really understand the level of detail needed to plan, right? Because if I take you, right, like you have a very demanding job where many people, like, I mean, like big deal. People are like looking up to you to tell them what to do, right? So I'm sure if I was to come talk to you early January, you would have definitely told, of course, I know how to be organized and how to plan. And I guess, how would you describe the differences of how you were planning, let's say in 2023 versus how you're planning in 2024?
2023, I can't say that there was a outline plan. It was, if anything, it could have just been this running to-do list. And that was the plan. It was, and yeah, that was the goal. Maybe it was a goal. I think it was like
Mm,
there was just a goal, but then the goal wasn't pointed out or outline related to these are all the tasks affiliated with that goal. It would just be like, okay, this month I am going to do IRB, and or this week I'm going to do IRB, and it's like sit at the computer and do all things IRB and not like being pacing myself throughout the week. But 2023, it was just like these are goals and brainstorming independently because I wasn't a part of Qual Scholars of like, how do I do this? Or all the additional effort that I would have to independently do of reaching out to friends of friends or individuals who went through my specific program and getting feedback for them in which they were removed. And it's simply like, this is what I did. And you can take from, what I did to implement it for you. But of course, all of that didn't work because I'm a different person and I have my own setup. Like, was it helpful? But it was just a lot of independent outreach and no community and just goals, but not really outlined.
mm. And I feel like most people do that, right? I think about me, like before I was doing that, it's like, oh, it's fine to have this running to-do list because as long as I know everything that I need to get done, I could just cross it off one by one. But like what you were saying earlier is, okay, so I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna say work on IRB, but I have no idea how long it takes to work on the IRB, how many steps are involved, if I am even prepared to do that. And so what you're thinking, let's say you allot 2 hours to do an IRB application, but as you get into it, you realize it's more like 10 hours. Now you get to the end of the week and you're feeling like I didn't do anything, I wasn't productive. No, your plan just wasn't like detailed enough. Your plan, to like your language of like it wasn't helping you to pace. Like you just was like, I'm gonna work on the literature review. I'm gonna that is very vague. And what ended up happening, y'all, is that you end up reaching decision fatigue faster because while you did have a running to-do list that you did on Sunday, by the time you get to Thursday, and you didn't had a whole week, lived a whole life, and then you sit down in your work hours at like 7 p.m. Now you're trying to take a very exhausted brain from the week and you're
Mhm.
trying to tell it, okay, decipher what does it mean to work on the IRB? How do you get started? You're leaving a very tired you to make decisions that it does not have capacity to make. Versus when your plan says, open up IRB, upload your consent letter, upload your recruitment email. That is very clear. And you can do those in like 10 minutes here or 5 minutes there. And it will help you when you plan it out that way. It helps you to pace your IRB as well as you understand how much time it's going to take. And so you can better prepare for that. Yeah. Anything you would add to that? And no pressure. I just wanted to give
N-
space.
No, that sums it up.
Yeah. I remember, like, I have a very early memory of like one of our first group conversations around planning. Like, you're like, yeah, okay, I went to Mardi Gras, but now I gotta like buckle down. And I'm like, but do you? And I remember going through your day. I'm like, just tell me, what is it that you want to do? You want to take naps? You want to work out? You want to eat this certain way? Like, you still go on date night? And you're like, yeah, but I can't. And I remember us going into a level of detail. And I remember you being like, no, that's okay. We don't have to. And I'm like, no, I want to show you that you could do everything you want to do. And not only was that helpful for you, but it was helpful for everyone on that call to see this is how you break your day down so that you make room. This is how you make decisions ahead of time so you can have room for everything that you want to do. And so, kind of off of that, because a lot of people will say to me, oh, I need one on one coaching. A group won't work for me. I don't feel comfortable. Are there any like insights or encouragement that you can give to people on that?
I would say group coaching is the space to be in. It really like a few things come to mind, and I'll talk about one thing that comes to mind first, and then circle back to other things is one of the first things that come to mind for me with group coaching is hearing what individuals are experiencing at that specific mile marker in their journey. There's individuals who are part of the group who maybe they haven't even started on their dissertation, or they're about to defend, or they're further along their journey in their journey with their dissertation, where you get foresight into things that you need to consider. I'll never forget one of the group coaching sessions that we had, and Dr. Candace, now I can't remember her last name. I think that's her name, and she
Henry.
has a sister like, is it Kimberly?
Mm-hmm.
She has a sister like.
Ken, oh no, Candace Henry.
Okay, so Dr. Candace,
Mhm.
and she reached a point where, and this isn't exactly what happened, but she was talking about how when she shared, I don't know if she had defended or not, but she shared her draft with her dissertation chair, and her dissertation chair said that she needs to do more explaining with her quotes from her participants. And between that and like just hearing what she was saying and what she learned and the feedback that her dissertation chair provided, I took that in my mind for whenever I got to that point, because I also did a qualitative study. And I don't know if she did mixed methods, but I know qualitative. But I took that information along with the resources that were available related to when you get to this point and you're doing your chapter 4 or whatever chapter that is for you, because I had 7 chapters. It talked about how to set up the quote when you're presenting that information, and between what she said, but I learned that from group coaching. You can't get that feedback from multiple individuals and the things that are unique to their journey. And those are things that come from group coaching. So between what she said and other researchers on qual scholars, that put me in a position to, when I defended from any of my committee members, I didn't have those type of revisions because I set up my quotes. And again,
Mhm.
I didn't get that feedback from my chair. I learned from other individuals, a part of the community, and resources that were available on Quad Scholars. And like my revisions were very minimal after I defended, but that's something I gained from the community of coaching.
Mhm.
And when we do different exercises of like how Dr. Lacey shared of me going through my week, or even when we did like 12-month planning, and I'm like, I have
Mhm.
all these 9,000 million goals. And she was like, okay, Dale, let's dial it back. Remember, the task was one
Mhm.
goal. So from these, and then and it's like, okay,
Mhm.
yes, I live in a state of delusion, and I do, but let's let's actually, plan and
Mhm.
and to in order to put me in a position that'll be helpful for the goals that I have. And me, I was all like when I was able to attend in person, well, online for the different coaching sessions, I was always happy to volunteer because you get that one-on-one feedback. But even other individuals, upon them being open to volunteer, then their situation's different, but there's something that you can learn from a different perspective that helps you navigate through whatever mile marker you're at, or giving you foresight on how to navigate through the next mile marker. But I appreciated group coaching and hearing about the successes of other individuals, because that was also encouraging. And also being able to encourage other Black and Brown individuals who maybe they have been struggling with this journey, and being able to see their progress, or to be a part of encouraging them on this journey, because it can be lonely if you are maybe the only one that looks like you in your program. But being a part of a community where you can receive encouragement and encourage others. So there's so many benefits of coaching, but
Mhm.
those are the things that I can highlight.
And I love like delusion. I'm like, I live there. I have mansions in Delulu land, okay? Because that's how you create things like this. And I have learned we have to pace our delusion. I'm not saying don't be delusional, y'all. You just gotta pace it. I'm using this word. I love it. Okay, I'm gonna put myself out here because we didn't talk about this before. Can you describe like what it's like to be coaching, like to coach with me? Because a lot of people are like, I just need to do this one on one. I'm like, friend, you don't want to coach with me one on one, right? Not to be out here like sounding real arrogant, but I'm telling you, it's intense, and you don't want to do this every week one on one. And as someone who was using a group and got, I love how you talked about being able to learn from other people, from Dr. Candace Henry and folks who go and they're sharing real time, like this is what's going on. I don't know, anything that you would speak to either the coaching style or differences in terms of one-on-one attention. Like, yeah, I'll leave it there.
I think what I can share is with like the coaching style in general, like I appreciate it because I never felt judged by anyone. And even in the probing questions throughout the process, it really allowed me to come up with like self-guided solutions, as well as Dr. Lacey would share feedback. It was it it really made me do critical thinking, like I'll say reflection and perspective
Mhm.
of either I'm able to do more than I think that I can do in a shorter time period. That, but then the critical, becoming more self-aware, I still got that in group coaching. It was a it's for me, it was like uncomfortable but comfortable growth, if that even makes sense. So
Mhm.
I can't personally imagine what, like that, and that
Mhm.
worked for me. But and I'm one where when I go through it in those coaching settings, when I'm operating independently and doing my planning or whatever I'm thinking about, I'll think of my group coaching experiences with Dr. Lacey, or her coaching with others, and I integrate that into my, like, well, what would Dr. Lacey do? What would Dr. Lacey
Mhm.
ask me? And but it was like uncomfortable but comfortable self-reflection that I mean, it not only helped me in my dissertation journey, but also helping me in life, bringing awareness of the impact of our central nervous system and things that can paralyze us on the journey, related to if like things that may be going on in our life that we have to consider, that can hinder our progress, that we may need to, like, well, what are you going to do about this, Dell? Because you're likely need to deal with this in order to continue your progress. So yeah, that's what I can share about coaching.
Yeah.
I hope I answered the question. I don't
Yeah, no,
know.
you did. And that's a
Mhm.
perfect segue because I like to remind folks just because you decided to enroll in a doctoral program doesn't mean life stops. Like life will happen. and what is going to be your support system? How do you keep yourself going when life happens? So if we go to the summer, this past summer, you had a lot of life happening. And how did you still get yourself to keep going? 'Cause I'm like,
Mhm.
the different things that you had to navigate, one of those events is enough to stop progress for
Mhm.
years, let alone
Mhm.
multiple back to back. So how was that
Mhm.
for you?
Gosh, oh my gosh, and I can't even say it started in the summer.
Mhm.
Life and in the spring. Um, my last living parent, she like her, I knew that she was going to pass, but didn't anticipate it to be so quickly. But what kept me going between my last living parent passing, it being like the busiest time of year, and things are already super busy at work, and it's the busiest time of year, and I'm dealing with an ill parent, and then I ended up getting married. So a lot, and this
Mhm.
was like April, May, June, July, bottom of April. So a lot of this happened really within the span of like 3 months, because it
Mhm.
started at the bottom of April. It started at the bottom of April. And what kept me going, of course, is my comfort that comes from God. Then my family and my community.
Mhm.
And then also, I was already in therapy and having a
Mhm.
therapist in that time, but recognizing that, like, if I do need time, like, not forcing myself to, like, just taking the time that I needed. And I still had a plan. Like, I still had, like,
Mhm.
if I'm working on anything, this is what it is, but not being overcritical on myself. And but like taking the time that I need, and if I didn't get 10 hours in, then it was 6 or 8. But I took the time that I needed. And then even, before my husband and I were married, he was like, well, we're gonna go on a cruise. And at that point I was in writer's block, because for the
Mhm.
longest, I'm telling my siblings, oh yeah, I just need to finish these final chapters. And like, Dale, you've been working on that for half a year. And
Mhm.
I in between life happening and then having writer's block, and then just taking time, like still living life, went on a cruise. I knocked out half of my final chapter sitting on the balcony looking at the ocean. And after breathing again, like really breathing, that really brought me out of my writer's block, and just
Mhm.
getting back in my full routine of, this is what I need to work on, finding what that new rhythm was, but still having a plan, but not forcing myself to, like, if I'm not up to it, then don't do it. Then I, took a break. But I literally just, whatever that 10 hours a week plan, working on it bit by bit. And like sometimes it may have ended up being 4 hours a week or 6 hours a week, because I think like the whole spring I had, it was what took me the longest was, at that point I think I was doing, it was like, maybe I have 7 chapters. There's chapter 6, which is my interpretation, and chapter 5 is the natural themes that emerge. And it's a different, like, it's, for me it was a different type of writing, because I wasn't a graduate assistant or a part of
Mhm.
other art, individuals work and helping support them in that. So it's my first time really writing in that way. And upon me getting my rhythm down and leveraging the resources from qual scholars and getting back into the routine, then I was just able to gradually work on it bit by bit. And before I knew it, I'm meeting with, doing my monthly meeting with my dissertation chair. And it's like, it's the top of September. And I tell, like, oh, well, I've done this, I've done that, all of the progress that I made. And I'm like, oh, well, I just have to write half of chapter 7, which is my conclusion chapter. And then it was like in one more section in my interpretation chapter. And I mean, like, you hear that and you're like, oh yeah, Dale, you're close to being done. But in my mind, it wasn't like, oh, Dale, like at the top of September, after I shared that with my dissertation chair, she was like, oh, well, you can defend October 1st. I was like, what? I was like, "No, no, no, I'm not that close, like, no, no, no." She was like, "You can," and confidently, she was like, "October 1." I was like, "What?" And it wasn't exactly September 1. We were, like,
Mhm.
maybe towards the bottom of that first full week. And so, like, in my mind, I have a very structural mind, so then I begin to think of, "Okay, so if I'm gonna do this," and I started working backwards in my mind, and I
Mhm.
said, "Well, if I'm gonna defend by October 1, I need to have it to my chair a week before, like a minimum of 1 week before. But you learn and you grow in working with your chair, and I wanted to give my chair more time than 1 week to whether it was respond to an email or to look at it, because I hadn't really, the feedback was more verbal throughout my experience. So, and I don't think she looked at, and I can't recall exactly what she looked at that point. And so I was like, I want to be prepared for whatever. I don't want to say be prepared for the worst, but I wanted to, after I realized that, um, okay, let me try to get it to her 2 weeks before October 1, I was like, okay, part of this, I'm not about to kill myself. So she'll get it at least 1 week
Mhm.
before. Like I told her, but I thought through realistically, like upon me sticking to my 10 hours a week, what does this look like? And I think it took me 3 weeks to do everything. And she ended up having it
Mhm.
1 week before the 1st of October, but it still built in 2 weeks. So I was within all of the time frames of, you have to defend within these 2 weeks. And then after that, then you have to go through the next process before the November deadline with the registrar's office for everything to be done. But I say all that to say, just because I was working on it bit by bit up until that point, I I was much further than I
Mm.
thought. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I can defend. So yeah.
Yeah. And I hear a few things I want to point out in this. Thank you so much for the detail. It's something I hope that y'all heard was, even though life was lifing, and the natural consequences of lifing, meaning writer's block or just not having it. Not once it's like, I'm not about to push through so much that I harm myself. I'm going to continue on my routine. And if it's 10 hours, it's 10 hours. If it's 6 hours, it's 6 hours. But whatever it's going to be, it's going to be. And it's not a problem that I'm not doing this like showing up every day and like grinding 5 o'clock in the morning and writing 4 hours every day. Nope, that's not a problem. It is okay to do this whenever you have the capacity to do that. And in sticking to that allows you to make consistent progress. Even though I'm sure like in the moment, if I was to ask you, like especially in the depths of writer's block, if I was to ask you like how like do you feel like you're making enough progress? You probably would have been like, I don't know, but I'm just gonna keep going, right? That's the attitude, y'all. Like that is what it means to do this process in a realistic, healthy way. And that is how you get to a September conversation, right? And being like, or August, or like being like, okay, you're gonna defend at the top of October, and being like, how we get here? Because you were showing up, putting in your consistent, what, 6 to 10 hours a week, got you to a
Mhm.
point where your chair was like, yeah, it's good. And what I love what you said earlier in this conversation was, and that did um that didn't bring down the quality of your work.
Mhm.
The reason why your chair was right able to say like, oh no, confidently you can do it, in because you had the space to work on it, you had the space to do your best work. And I love how and I do want you to talk a little bit more about this, about your defense. But earlier you said like there were minimum revisions, and I remember our DM conversation, like I think it's kind of a trick though, like because maybe they didn't tell me everything. I knew, I'm like, yeah, because you were showing up every week, and because you were taking care of yourself first, because you were feeding your relationships first, you had the capacity to show up and let this dissertation be what it is and do good work. But like, how was it going into your defense? How were you feeling? What were your expectations and your reactions to their final decision?
I have to preface this whole what I'm about to share with, when it was all said and done, I was like, "This is it?" I was like I was expecting more. In reflecting of everything that I went through to get to that point in defending and preparing the document, it was just this is it. Like, what am I missing? And so, in the part of preparing, even just for my defense, for me, I had 15 minutes. When I first started working on my PowerPoint, and I started reviewing it, and reading all of my notes, I was at 40 minutes. And sometimes my chair, it can be like black and white. 15 minutes, if it's 15 minutes. If you are not done, I am cutting you off. I get it.
Mhm.
And so I was like, the part that made me nervous is, so my dissertation in the last version that I sent, it was 265 pages from the first page to the last page. And I had anywhere between 9 themes and 11 sub themes in that for
Mhm.
my interpretation, as well as my findings, things that naturally emerge. So I'm like, how do I fit all this in 15 minutes? So in practicing my rehearsing for my defense, it went from like 44 minutes to 30 minutes. And then I got down to 17 minutes. And I'm just like, it's just going to be what it's going to be. And
Mhm.
then at that point, it was just like, I'd make sure I'm familiar with all the information, because some things I just hadn't, that it's more so at the forefront, because it'd been a while since maybe I looked at other information that I wasn't focusing on. And then my entire program, one thing that it did teach me is like critical thinking. And whenever you look at articles, we were already always looking at articles and analyzing them critically. So when I was writing my dissertation, I'm like, if I was critically looking at this as an article, what would be my criticisms? So I took that lens, and also preparing for my defense. And they actually asked me one of the things that I know I would have criticized my document over. Going to the
Mhm.
defense, and my husband and my bonus son come, who's 4. And I'm an administrator, and sometimes we're just showing up. Like, we're going through our day and we show up right at that time for whatever it is, but yet it could be
Mhm.
super huge for someone else. They showed up like right at the start time. Um,
Mhm.
and at the defense, it's their choice whether they want to open up the Zoom to let people hang out until they're ready. The Zoom didn't start until like 38 minutes later. I think it was like 11:38. And so
Mhm.
like some people, individuals who are familiar with the process, like they'll know and they'll wait. Other individuals are like, I don't know what happened, and they left. So like the
Mhm.
Zoom didn't start for my defense until like 11:38. And then by the time when I was like on my third slide talking about data collection, someone said that they can't see me. And at that point, I had my timer going, and I said, well, the way things are going, I am no longer concerned about my time. And,
Mhm.
and so then at that point, I just,
Mhm.
and maybe I ended up presenting like 20 minutes or whatever it may be. And so like that happened. And I received questions, and the questions that I received and the feedback that they received, what I will go into, and there was a recording, or maybe I watched it live, and Dr. Lacey talks about the selection of your committee members. And one of my committee members works in the space of disaster management and higher education. And some of their concerns were critical but relevant, but like
Mhm.
pretty critical. And I share that to say, like, who you select on your committee, like, it matters. At this moment, I don't regret that decision, but the makeup of my committee, I knew that I had committee members that had my back regardless of anything, um, because they know like who I am and my work ethic and so forth. But the one committee member, they had some very strong criticisms,
Mhm.
to the extent where after I answered the question, and my husband knew some of the limitations and the challenges that I had, when it came a time to ask questions, he asked the question in a different way. So I could reiterate the challenges and
Mhm.
limitations and how I overcame that level of the criticism that they have through data triangulation that I didn't have to do, that I didn't
Mhm.
have to do. I didn't have to spend a whole, for my 10 hours a week, 6 of the hours be going back 2 years of looking at social media posts.
Mhm.
I did that. And
Mhm.
so that happened, but their questions and feedback was more around of them processing the information. It wasn't like, oh, well, you didn't address this, you didn't address that. It was more so like them processing it to the point where it wasn't even like, Dell, at this. It was like, well, if
Mhm.
you write something else, or if you do something else, then consider pedagogies of the oppressed. I didn't have to go back and add anything to the literature, or really incorporate any other scholarly articles to explain
Mhm.
anything. It was, they just processed it. And I was just like,
Mhm.
okay, I was just waiting for something and waiting for something. And the with the critical lens that I knew that they were gonna have was related to student development theory. And it's a higher ed administration doctorate. And but I knew I didn't have to focus on student development theory and like have like this super huge section, but I needed to have
Mhm.
something. And they asked me about it, but I was prepared because I thought from a critical lens of how I would critique my own work. But yeah, but it was minimum. There was like one thing that took a little bit of time to go back and look at what did president social medias
Mhm.
say during disaster management. But like beyond that, it was like, oh, just add this stuff to your conclusion chapter. And I was like, okay. I was like, it would, but at the same time, the confidence that I had in my work
Mhm.
was that I don't know what other angle. Like I need to demonstrate I can do it. And
Yep.
because I did that, then there shouldn't be much else.
Listen, we love a supportive king. Cover the question. And y'all listen, Dr. Murray ain't gonna say this. I'm gonna say it. And I don't know. I don't know. This ain't personal about her committee members. I just know how people show up in defenses and act up. So I'm gonna say it. Yeah, you do want to think about who your committee members are. And I often tell students, don't get so caught up about who is knowledgeable about your content area or who does this work or who is such name, because those are going to be the very people, a lot of them, not all, but a lot of them will get into your defense and see how amazing your work is, and then they're triggered, but they don't know they're triggered. But then they start acting up in your defense, asking questions that ain't no document, ain't nobody even talked about, but because they feel like hit dogs holler, because they feel triggered. Now they're in competition with you. And you may find that hard to believe because you're like, but I'm the student, they're already doctor. Yeah, but when I know, if I'm looking at you and I'm like, if you're like this as a student, what are you going to be 2, 3, 5 years from now when you're regularly doing a scholarship? Competitiveness comes out. And I see this over and over, that either the committee member who is triggered is like asking very harsh or critical questions or going into a level of detail ain't nobody else is doing, or they are like, "Ooh, do you want to publish? Do you want to do this together?" And then your ops. Okay, I cannot say this enough, y'all. Like, yeah, absolutely. So a lot of the video that we have in the group, defend with confidence. And whenever I do a session on this is how you prepare for your defense, I say, as a student, your job is to sit there and smile and look pretty. Not because I'm trying to tell you don't say what you know, is because there's so many dynamics happening in the defense that your job is to sit there and look pretty. Unless someone explicitly asks you a question and you answer the question that was asked. If they don't know how to ask their question, that's on them. But you answer the question that was asked. If someone is trying to do a line of questioning that you like, that ain't even within the scope of this research, you say something like, "Thank you so much for that question. I haven't given much consideration to that, but I definitely will consider that for the future." And you move on to the next question. Okay? Because people will try to trip you up. I'm not trying to scare anyone. I'm just trying to tell you like the real things. Your chair, most chairs are going into a defense prepared for a committee member to act up. And so their job is to intervene if it gets too heavy. But also you can make sure you're protecting yourself is only answering the question that was asked. You don't have to give additional information unless you want to have a petty moment. I also support a petty moment. And if you are able to have an open Zoom or open defense, make sure you tell your friends. Like if you are nervous about someone who's going to be in that defense, or a committee member that you're worried they're going to try to like play you, tell your friends, your doctor friends. Because just like your husband did, like, let me rephrase this question because I'm sure he was like, he got us effed up. And, or, I don't know. Okay, but you're not about to do this. Let me rephrase. And your friends or your people who are in the audience will ask a question that way to make sure that you can speak from your high point. So thank you for sharing that example because it happens more often than folks realize. Can you tell us a little bit about your research?
Yes. So my research is over disaster management in higher education, specifically looking at the perceived experiences of students and staff related to how their institution handled it. It was specific to Hurricane Ida in at two institutions in New Orleans, Louisiana. And I selected this topic. I was actually going to do a different topic, but then I landed on this as I experienced Hurricane Ida as a hybrid student, a full-time student, as well as it being a month and a half in my job when it occurred. The findings from the study, what I'll highlight is that there's opportunities for communication to be re-examined, specifically institutions looking at where are they posting information, and ensuring that they're posting an information in locations where student and staff are looking at it, because institutions were posting information on platforms that students didn't look at. With the generation that we have at these both institutions had primarily traditional learners, institutions were posting information on Facebook if they were posting. This generation really doesn't look for Facebook for information. The information was great. Our one institution was posting information on the president's account, but in students and faculty, everyone primarily looks at least at the institutional primary account. Other factors consisted of the perception was that the institutions did the best that they could based off of the circumstances. Other themes consisted of students and our staff. Primarily, students felt that the institutions, they would think that they would be better prepared because of Katrina. One of the limitations was examining, including senior level and executive level leadership. But to overcome that challenge, I triangulated data based off of social media, anything available on the website, a YouTube video that had senior leadership in it to bridge the gaps of what they were doing, and specific to standard operating procedures and continuity plans. What another finding from the study is that there's opportunity for improvement for both. And from that finding, one of my recommendations was to create a position for all of my, what I actually did, the recommendation was to create a position that holds the various departments across campus accountable. Not necessarily like we're slapping, you're getting reprimanded if you don't have a SOP or, continuity plan, but to stay on top of departments, to create those, to engage in training, but having someone where that is their responsibility. And also creating an institutional certificate for individuals in different levels of management so they know what their responsibility is during a disaster, whether it's natural or whether it's an on-campus shooting, whether it's October 7th. But understanding that, but a training program, whenever a disaster happens, individuals are boggled down with trying to keep up, figuring out what's going on, and as well as what do I need to do in this moment. And if someone goes through training and has a plan, then one is better prepared and equipped. Overall, I feel like I believe the state of higher education is going to be in a constant state of crisis. So at least if institutions and administrators are equipped to constantly navigate through crisis, it's not another element of burnout. And a solution for that is creating a department that can partner and hold the various departments across campus accountable for going through trainings, creating continuing education units, and this could be funded through charging for the certificate program to other institutions when they want to do it through the home institution, and considering adding a one-time fee for first-time enrollees to help fund the department, and then as well as grants.
That is beautifully said. Beautifully said. As I know, I think a lot about like, right, our federal government is having a hard time navigating and keeping up, let alone right our institutions of higher ed, and especially how we communicate as a population now and how fast information moves across social media. If the institution cannot be nimble in the same way as how fast that information is spreading, like, oh, we can go down rabbit holes, right? Like all the implications. So I want to say you did an amazing job of not only setting that up and talking about the major considerations and telling people what they can do. I want to give you your flowers because that is truly y'all the most challenging part at this point. When you have been looking at your data for months and months and months, you have so much knowledge in your head. And so when you get to your final chapters, the issue is not how it was in the proposal of like trying to get yourself to write because you don't know what to say. The issue becomes I have so much to say, but only so much space. How do I organize it all and say it in a way that other people can understand, even if they're newer to this research? And so you just that was beautiful, like beautiful. And I want to say that I also want to give you your flowers in that from the beginning, you came into this group and you were very open to a new way of learning, a new way of doing things. And maybe you had some maybe like struggles in like doing the thing. I wouldn't say from my point of view, it just was very much like, okay, well, I'm gonna try this. I'm willing to, okay, you're telling me go look at this. Let me go look at it. You're telling me come to this call. I'm gonna do that. And it just, I don't know, I just it's very affirming or encouraging to just watch you go through this over the past, 9 to 10 months that you were in the group. And I just want to say thank you for trusting me and trusting the other members of Finish Your Dissertation to support you along this process. And I guess like with that, any words of encouragement for that person who is like, I noticed the last day, I keep thinking about joining. I've been sitting on this, like been watching the Instagram for a while or the YouTube for a while, and I want to do it, but still just don't know. Any words of encouragement for that? And then I guess a part B to that, especially for folks who are like, but what if I don't need those 12 months? What is that like? Will this be a waste? So any thoughts or words about that?
The time to act is now. Stop waiting, stop watching, go ahead and sign up. Hopefully you're not like me where you're following the account for 2 years and then you decide to do it. But if you are, act now. Like that's what I can say. You're upon acting now and signing up for Qual Scholars, finish your dissertation. You're gonna be, at the end of the day, you're gonna be better off with Qual Scholars, finish your dissertation, compared to not being a part of the community. There's so much to gain and nothing to lose related to getting to the finish line. Whether it's community, whether it's the general coaching sessions, access to the information on the portal, all you can do is gain information, gain knowledge, improve your journey and move quicker towards degree completion. For anyone who's like, well, I don't think I need 12 months. Maybe you don't need 12 months. If you, whatever that period of time is that you think that you need, I would still encourage you to join the community, because likely what you have access to and what you gain from being a part of the community is going to speed up that timeline even more for you to get to the next thing of whatever that is for you. For me, it's festivals, it's family, it's spending more time with my husband. It's like whatever life has to offer me now that this part of my scholastic journey is coming to an end. But if you don't think it's going to take you a year, still go ahead and sign up, because it'll propel you to the finish line even quicker.
Oh, thank you. And for those of you, if you're watching on Instagram, you can go ahead and type FYD and you'll get sent the link. If you are on YouTube, you can get the description box and the link is there. If you're on Circle, the link is at the top of the page. Okay. It was real easy for y'all to join. Enrollment does close tonight at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but really, because the way my ADHD is set up, it's going to be tomorrow morning when I get the link off. But yes, thank you so much. And as a petty moment slash lore, if anybody is interested, my most popular blog and like episode is what's the difference between phenomenology and of inquiry, and it is inspired by your program. Your program has inspired a lot of posts, as well as I've worked with a lot of students through the program. So shout out to that program. But I want to say thank you for giving us your time. If folks want to follow up, what was the best way for them to do so?
Follow up with me.
Yeah, they might have
Oh,
questions. They
me?
might want to know more about your
Oh,
research.
oh, well, let me look on, let me see what my Instagram is probably
Oh, I
like.
could tag it. I could tag
Okay.
it for people so
Okay.
if they want to
Yeah,
follow
that'll be
you on Instagram.
good. That'll be good. That's the easiest way to connect.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And y'all, if you have questions, please let us know. But that is gonna do it for us. And I'll be back on live later. Bye, y'all. Let me